Yo, what's going on out there, fam? It's your boy Tahir Johnson, and we're back with another week of the Cannabis Diversity Report. Today, I have my homie Richard all the way from Hawaii today. It's early in the morning out there, so I appreciate you coming through, bro. How are you?
Aloha Tahira, thank you. We're doing good, man. Yeah, like you said, in Hawaii, 6 in the morning, but anything for NCIA, especially for you to hear, this is a great opportunity. And I'm just honored to be here. So mahalo for having us and excited to have this conversation.
That's what's up, bro. Yeah, I appreciate you. Aloha. And just for everybody out there listening, Richard serves as in two roles for two companies actually, and he's somebody that I met earlier this year since I've been working on our social equity scholarship program, and he actually is on our diversity, equity, and inclusion committee here at NCIA. But he serves as the sales enablement and operations specialist at Backbone, and also as a social impact coordinator at Cookies. So Richard, can you just talk a little bit about what you do in your two different roles, and also how'd you get into the cannabis industry?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Tahir. As you said, I work with two organizations, Backbone and Cookies, and both are NCIA member organizations. So again, I really appreciate you having me on this podcast and being able to share about the work that we're doing. And Backbone is it's a SaaS company, so we provide software to cannabis and hemp operators. My role as a sales enablement and operations specialist, I work side by side with our COO. Shout out to Dr. Peter Houston. And what we're really doing is really ensuring that our sales team and our operations team has the resources and the tools so they can be successful. So we can really engage our operators and provide operators across the country the resources they need so they can be successful operators. For Cookies, I work on the social impact team, and we got an amazing team. Shout out to Amanda Friedman, who's the program manager, Brandon Bolton, and Mary Pryor, who's actually our brand manager. And we're working on designing a program that makes sure that Cookies, all the activities we do, have a positive impact on the community. We're really working to incorporate social impact and social equity internally into almost every activity and every function that Cookies does as an organization, focusing on social equity, advocacy, and workforce development. So that's just some quick overviews of my current roles. But I guess, getting into the cannabis industry, man, how much time we have over here? Because, Tahir, you and I, we've had a conversation before, and it's like, a lot of us, we don't have like a linear path that we ended up into the cannabis space. So for me, actually, prior to working in the cannabis industry, I was actually working in local government and public education. And that's where I really got my introduction to a lot of the social equity work. I was working in the Berkeley Unified School District in Berkeley, California. My mentor at the time was Jim Slemp, and he was a principal at Berkeley High School, and he was a huge advocate of social equity. So really advocating for policies and resources for the students and the families that really needed it the most, right? So a lot of my work was engaging elected officials, working with the mayor's office, Berkeley Police, Cal Berkeley, and really trying to create that ecosystem so we could allocate resources to the students and families that needed it the most. Towards the end of my time at Berkeley Unified, I started to do some social impact consulting. So I had some of my homies up in Washington State. I went to UW up in Seattle, and they had some businesses that they were running in the corporate painting industry and materials industry, and they needed help to create their philanthropic and corporate social responsibility programs. So I had a lot of experience setting up nonprofits and just working in the public sector, doing all my local government work, engaging stakeholders. So they thought it'd be interesting to see if I could really bring that skill set over to their companies and really sort of create social enterprises. So I started to do some social impact consulting. And that was probably around 2010 and 2011. And the state of Washington really started to grow their medical marijuana sector, right? So some of my homies, they were legacy operators, but then they really decided to start medical marijuana collective at that time. So as I was doing this social impact work, they just said, hey, Rich, you know, like we're going to start this collective and we really want to connect to the community. This is going to be all about compassion. You know, we're going to be providing medicine to patients. We really want to just have a positive impact. So I started to work with them. At that time in Washington for medical marijuana industry, you had to be a state nonprofit. So we were operating like an actual nonprofit organization. We had a board of directors. We were creating programming that was focused on compassion, health, but also we were looking at ways to connect to the community. But during that time too, I also got like a lot of exposure on how a dispensary set up. And this is cool because Tahir, I know you worked also in the dispensaries too, you know? But this was like first iteration software. So MJ Freeway for patient intake. You know, we were taking scripts, so we had to make sure everyone was verified patients. At that time, the federal government was cracking down on a lot of these dispensaries in Washington state. So we couldn't have any branding or signs, anything. Really, the building and the dispensary it was painted black, so you couldn't tell. And it was just like a green door. And that's all it was. So it was really, you know, bringing in like relationships. And this was my first venture into the cannabis industry. 2012, the state went like fully rec. So my homies, my good brother, Nate Gibbs, who I grew up with in Hawaii, he started another farm and they transitioned the medical marijuana collective into becoming producer processors. So they were focusing on the grow. So I helped them transition, do the application, just because I was used to just working in policy. And in Washington, the state was just, policy was changing on a daily basis, right? So we went through that process. They became producer processors. And in that time, I was helping them sort of set up like operations in the grow, looking at like supply chain management, production, just all the different systems. BioTrack was the track and trace for Washington at the time. So again, all these like first iteration and first gen like software, we were actually like looking and implementing and no one knew what was going on. So it was really interesting that this was like, you know, my introduction to the industry because I was working with like my good friend that I grew up with. And actually at the farm, they actually have like majority of the people are from Hawaii too. So the farm's called Gold Leaf Gardens and we say it's grown with aloha. So it was interesting how like we could incorporate all of our culture into that. So I was doing that 2012 and then I was still in the Bay Area going back and forth to Washington. I had ended my time at the school district and I had decided I wanted to do social impact consulting full time. So I was doing social impact consulting, working with some startups in the Bay Area in the tech industry, the health sector. But I was keeping my eye on California because, you know, it was going to come online and I wanted to see what was available for opportunities. And I was volunteering with this civic tech organization called Code for America. And they had this brigade called Open Oakland. And Open Oakland worked with the city of Oakland directly. And it was all citizen driven. It was all volunteer based. But we would provide digital services and solutions to the city of Oakland. So when the city had created their social equity policy, they had worked with their Office of Race and Equity to do a whole white paper and analysis. And they needed a digital solution that would help facilitate their incubation process, which was a component of the social equity policy. So I was part of the volunteer team that helped create a website called Canna Equity, and it helped facilitate these partnerships. It was part of the licensing process. And in that time, I met Lawanda Knox, who runs Make Green Go, and she became the technical assistance provider for Oakland. So I jumped on with her team. She gave me a good opportunity and actually was helping provide technical assistance to social equity operators in Oakland. And that was everything from how to navigate the licensing process to really getting your business started in year one. And then in year two was a lot of like one-on-one consulting, right? What is your business plan? How are you going to secure funding? You know, just a lot of monthly workshops. Basically, you know, how to create a startup. So I was still, you know, doing consulting with my friends up in Washington and then working with Make Green Gold down here. And California just blew up, you know, like in 2018 when we went online. And I got to meet a lot of key stakeholders, especially in the social equity space. And it was really cool because it was like a convergence of all my experience working in local government, working in cannabis, all the community engagement work I'm doing. And it just created like the perfect opportunity. So I got to meet more people. And then through my friends up in Washington, they started to actually talk to other people in other states to expand their business. And we were in Las Vegas and we were talking to some potential partners. And actually, we met Taba Moses, who's a social equity operator out in Massachusetts. And he actually ended up becoming one of Cookie's social equity partners. So he introduced me to Cookie's Fan, and that's how I met Amanda Free. She was also doing some work with Backbone, and she brought me to Backbone. And then she's working on social impact for Cookies. And then she brought me in over there. And yeah, that's sort of like the story, man. Like, and now I'm in like, kind of like my dream job, man. This is something I never thought I would have the opportunity, especially like, growing up and being surrounded and immersing myself in sort of like cannabis culture, what like, I thought was like just something that would be like, not a hobby, but just a part of my life, but not like a job, So yeah, again, not a linear path, but like this is here we are. And I get to work with awesome people like you, Taylor.
Yeah, well, I would say it definitely, absolutely has to be a dream job. And you're talking about a really long track record, right? Like you said, all the way like the early days of legalization in Washington, like 2010, yeah. And like the early days of legalization in Oakland. So like, what have you seen, what have you seen like as the biggest thing that's consistent for cannabis brands or operators that have been able to have the longevity to make it from, back then to today?
Yeah, this is interesting. And it's something that I know you and I would talk a lot about too, because like policy is so important. So back in the early days in Washington, really policy was changing on a daily basis, right? The state of Washington, they housed their program in the Liquor Commission Board, but there was no real model or any precedent that they could like really follow to see, okay, we're going to create this new industry, right? So they had a framework that they were using, but in terms of policy and regulations, they were figuring out. So things were constantly changing. So basically, I think everyone in the industry, and we learned that early, you become a policy wonk from day one. You're reading regulations, these complex laws and legislations, you're tracking it on a daily basis. You have to anticipate, what's going to go on, how that's going to impact your operations. And, it's something that from the early days in Washington in 2010 to now, when I see operators and across the country as new states come online, it's something that is very consistent. It's sort of like the volatility and the uncertainty for operators, right? Like operating in this heavily regulated environment and everything is so cost intensive. How do you plan? So I think a lot of it is, just being in touch with the government and the administering agencies of whatever market you're in, monitoring licensing, and really sort of just having as much as you can in order in your operations, your budget, everything in place just for the unexpected. It's always like expect the unexpected, And I think that's something very consistent with a lot of operators, especially a lot of the small operators too, because like for my friends up in Washington with Gold Leaf Gardens, everything was like done through sweat equity, man. They built everything their own, they had no investors. Everything was really done on their own. So when you're doing it on your own, you're funding yourself and you're not really dependent on other people, then, you're in charge of everything. You're the compliance officer, you're the head of operations, you're the CFO, you're the CEO, you're doing distribution, you're doing everything. So it's really, just learning the whole supply chain, learning the policy and regulations. That's something that's been really interesting. And I have these conversations with operators all the time across the country. And it's something that we can all relate to.
Right. And I'll say in addition to policy, it sounds like something that's something that you mentioned that seems like a common theme is operations. And I know that you guys do have a tool there at Backbone that helps people kind of manage some of the different things like that operators have. Can you talk a little bit about what what like the backbone software, just because people may not be as familiar with that?
Yeah, definitely. And Backbone is awesome. So Backbone, it's a software system that we provide to cannabis and hemp operators. The system helps operators map out processes, capture analytics to the performance of material, machines, and then we also capture all the costs associated with that. So it's really like crucial for operators to understand, what their costs are for their operations, what yields that they're getting, right? And what's interesting with Backbone is we have our technologists and then we have our operators. And our technologists, they all come from Silicon Valley, heavy experience working with some big technology companies. Our founder, Rajesh Chandran, he was the head of analytics at NetSuite. Our operators, which is interesting, the other half of the company, we all come from the industry, right? So we know like operations. So our COO, Peter Hewson, he worked in compliance. He helped get a lot of licenses, but he helped Rajesh sort of create the product. And really the whole system is kind of like designed by operators for operators. So we really understand the supply chain. We understand all the needs of operators. And this allows us to really support operators of all sizes, large operators and small operators, because we can know like what it takes to scale up your operations and what systems you have in place. I guess a cool project that we're working on right now is we're really engaging with one of the shared use facilities in Oakland through their social equity program. And the license type in California is called this S license. And this allows the license holder to run a facility, but bring in tenants who can use their facility, right? And the shared use space is extremely important for the industry because, it is so cost intensive to start a business. This allows operators to come in because our system will be able to support the main license holder, but then we'll also be able to support all the operators and the needs of the operators. That's what we do. And yeah, the Backbone teaches about software, and we can teach them about weed and all that cool stuff, man. So yeah, it's a cool project.
You guys are also known for the same thing there, right? Like advocacy, workforce development. To support the community.
Yeah, great question. And shout out to Cookies fam, give thanks. They're an amazing group. And we really just, it's great because we're focusing a lot on advocacy, workforce development, and social equity. Those are like our main focus areas. So for like our workforce development program, what we're really trying to address is workforce equity, right? And what this looks like for us is really providing individuals who qualify for social equity. If they're not in a state that has a social equity program, we've created our own criteria, and we're really looking at the individuals who are facing these barriers to get a job in the industry. We're going to provide them a curriculum that's going to introduce them to the skill sets needed to get a job in the cannabis industry. But then we're going to take that a step further. We're going to provide them work-based learning opportunities. These could be internships, but also Cookies has an extensive operations network across the country. So as we bring these individuals in, we can connect them with operators in states in Oklahoma, Washington, Montana, like wherever Cookies is, and we can provide job opportunities. So this is going to be something that's really interesting, and the quality of jobs, like job quality is really important, especially for the future of work. So this is our efforts to really provide the resources to the communities and individuals that have been affected by the war on drugs and give them, skills to not only get a job, but also so they can, be empowered economically and, take these skills and maybe go and start their own company one day, but get them that exposure to what we're doing at Cookies. On our advocacy side, we're focusing a lot on cannabis justice right now. So working to support individuals that have been convicted for marijuana convictions, provide them and their family the resources that they need. So if they get out, they have a support system. You know, these re-entry resources are so important, and just create that ecosystem of resources so we can connect with more individuals and really, you know, just support policy and legislation. So more individuals don't get incarcerated for marijuana offenses, right? And then obviously cannabis social equity. So we're going to continue to advocate on the local and state level for the policies and resources to be allocated to social equity programs. We understand that, you know, it's like really important to support the community, but actually advocating, right? Being in like City Hall and working with the administrators of the programs and seeing how we can support workforce development. That's going to be a big part of our advocacy. And I guess another program that's really cool is our social impact committee. And this is like an internal committee for all of our team members at Cookies. And this is really cool because this sort of started organically. We had it on our roadmap, but once we had these conversations around social impact and what we're going to be doing, the interest just skyrocketed. So we set up a weekly meeting, and I think at that time in the company, there might have been around maybe 80 employees, but we were having 20 plus people come to these weekly meetings. And these were the people who could make that time slot. You know what I mean? So it's like, everyone is so invested into this, into having social impact and social equity be a part of the organization and making sure that it touches every part of the organization. So we actually structured the committee into 3 subcommittees, and we have it. One committee is focused on workforce, one is focused on advocacy, and another one focused on culture and community. And what this space is created for is for team members to come and they can create their own projects, working with their teams, focusing on their core competencies and skill sets, and creating projects that'll have positive impact on the community. So we meet on a weekly basis and we rotate the subcommittees and the focus areas, but really it's a chance for us on the social impact team to share more resources and knowledge around what's going on in the industry around social equity, social impact. But it's really a space for the team members to just, you know, see how they can be a part of all this social impact work. So our social impact team is basically the whole organization. You know, that's how like really committed everyone is. So, you know, big ups to Cookie's leadership for really supporting us on that and really enabling us to you know, provide all this knowledge and just work with our team members. So yeah, much respect to the Cookies team and the leadership.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things, and I think one of the reasons that so many people like Cookies brand is because like not only do y'all do stuff like that, but you're, you know, authentic to the culture, and I mean known for having that fire, right? So I have to ask, like, you know, with you being on here, what's your favorite Cookies strain?
Oh man, you know, I love the Gary. The Gary Payton is obviously a good one, especially going up to college in Seattle. The glove was actually my favorite basketball player. So when they came out with the Gary, I was like, oh man, this is it, you know. Georgia Pie is good. I like the high sativa. I think that goes at like 34%, you know. Some limoncello is good too. That cherry pie is good. Obviously, you know, the Runts is good. I mean, there's so much. That's the whole thing. Cookies is really like a genetic company, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting being in a company where everyone knows so much about cannabis, you know, because you come to Cookies, you gotta know what's up with the, you know, right, with the plant, right? You know, but they're all really connoisseurs. So it's really cool because we'll have these meetings and then everyone will just, you know, we can just all talk about like the plant and what everyone likes. So yeah, I would say a lot of Gary going on. They got these we got these cool blunts now, like I think they're either 2 grams or 3 grams. So yeah, a good Gary Payton blunt. Yeah, that'll be good for your weekend. You know that.
Yeah, we don't have those in Maryland yet. Get those.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it'll be coming soon, man. It'll be coming soon.
Dope. Yeah, man. And, you know, and speaking about like the cannabis culture a little bit, it looks like the sun, like it's getting a little bit brighter out there.
Oh yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, you know, what was Hawaii? What was the cannabis culture like there in Hawaii?
Oh man, that's cool, man. And this is awesome. I love this. And again, thank you for having me on this podcast because this is really cool. I don't really like feel comfortable talking about myself all the time, like because the work that we do, to hear it's always about the
Yeah,
community,
it's
right? So
selfless, right?
yeah,
It's not
yeah,
about you.
it's always about the community. So this is really interesting and it's cool because like obviously, Hawaii is such a special place for me. I mean, I grew up here. I'm native Hawaiian, I'm Kanaka Maoli. So it's cool that I get to share this. So again, I just, appreciate you providing this opportunity. But grow up in Hawaii, man, it's like, I grew up in the 90s, so we didn't really have technology, right? A lot of technology. We had like, some video game systems and all that, but growing up in Hawaii, a lot of time was spent outdoors, in nature, playing sports, hanging out the beach, bodyboarding, surfing. And everyone, all my friends, we all grew up listening to reggae. Like that was the thing, right? You listen to Hawaiian music, you listen to island music. Bob was my first tape. A lot of Inner Circle, Yellow Man, Gregory, Peter Tosh. So like, I had even from when I was a little kid, like in fourth and fifth grade, it was always like reggae was like the soundtrack, of my life. So like when I became a teenager, it was like I was so immersed in like this Rasta kind of like cannabis culture that I don't know, like cannabis it was always around, but when the time was right and, like we just tried it and it just made sense. We were listening to like Bob sing about all these messages about love and like, I remember Easy Skanking and the first time I was smoking, we were actually listening to Easy Skanking and it was just like, like, excuse me while I light my spliff, and we're like, hey, I was just like, yo, this just makes sense. It's like, we're in Hawaii, we're outdoors, and it just enhanced a lot of like our relationships and, a lot of like the things that are important to us, like family and community, ohana, like, it just like really like amplified all of that whole value system. So like cannabis in Hawaii is just like, I feel like it's like synonymous. You think of Hawaii, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna, like, yeah, where's the
Yeah,
Pakalolo, man? Yeah, like, so it was always a way just to really connect more with our environment, like the land, Aina, but also like really to strengthen our relationships. And it's interesting, like when I went up to college up at, up in Seattle, there was a bunch of us from Hawaii went up there and, we would, we would all just get together and sesh and we would talk about home, like, hey, it'd be great. We're going to, go back home for Christmas soon, like, and again, the herb was there to connect us, so I think that cannabis culture, that's at least like my experience, right? Growing up with it, I felt like it was always around. But like for Hawaii, it's like kind of like every state, like the herb's relationship to the government is very complicated too. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of prohibition going on too. And in the 70s and 80s, as the war of drugs was going on, in Hawaii, it was the same thing too, right? So there was like the green harvest, they called it. And that's when they were like, removing a lot of the plants on the Big Island where a lot of plants were grown. A lot of these operations were taking place. And it was like a really like a coordinated effort amongst local, state, and federal, drug enforcement agencies to really remove these plants, right? So again, I just think it's interesting because I grew up and I really was participating and really an advocate for cannabis in my teenage years in the 90s. But in the 80s, that's when all that was going on, So a lot of plants were being removed. And it's just interesting to think like, okay, in Hawaii, where you think like everyone is probably smoking, herb and all that. But no, it was actually, they wanted to remove the plant. You know what I mean? So that's like an interesting thing. But now, in 2015, medical marijuana, they allowed the dispensaries to come in. And 2016, the dispensaries came online. So it'll be interesting to see how this industry can grow, because I think in Hawaii and what we're seeing right now in the pandemic is we need other industries and other economies. So, it could be cannabis could be an option, hemp could be an option to really be an alternative economy. And it'll be interesting to see how that, because the culture, like cannabis culture, people who are advocating, people who are active users, it's strong, But again, government has their own timeline on how they're going to be introducing this to public. But the culture is definitely, you know, it's definitely there. And it was, if anything, to me, it's stronger. And that's how we became, you know, like active users and enthusiasts around it. Yeah, so that's sort of my experience growing up in Hawaii, and especially around cannabis culture. But it's always been something special, and especially because it's a natural plant and it's part of the land, yeah, or Aina, the
Right.
Aina. Yeah.
Right. And you know, and to talk about that a little bit more, especially with like culture and values. I know one of the, you mentioned Ohana, but one of the things that I noticed on your LinkedIn page, you talk about the values of Aloha, Ohana, and what is is the last one I pronounce it? Is it Lulima?
Laulima, yeah,
Laulima. So
yeah.
can you talk a little bit? I mean, talk a little bit about those and what does that, you know, what does that mean? Because I know that's a big connection to it. Also, is meaningful to you and your connection to cannabis.
Yeah, definitely. So like those values, aloha, ohana, laulima, these are values that are extremely important to me, because they really guide my work on a daily basis, but also just who I am as an individual. And I think it's really been important that I've had this opportunity in the cannabis industry to really sort of bring these values in. So like aloha, the concept of aloha is very complex. I don't think there's sort of another word, an English word that is similar to aloha, right? Aloha can mean love, it can mean peace, it can mean, you know, gratitude. It's a greeting when we say hello, it can be goodbye. But for native Hawaiians, like for Kanaka Maoli, right? It's something like much more profound. It's this word or this concept that's used to describe this force that sort of holds everything together. You know, like it's aloha, you know? So like you live aloha, you have this aloha spirit. Aloha is something that, you know, if you ever email me, and for anyone out there, whoever like email me, like you'll see aloha in my message at some point, because it's so important in every relationship I have to touch people with aloha or share that, because it's so powerful. And like, you know, it's this external force, and it's really what drives everything I do. So aloha is like the foundation for this. So aloha is like the main value, right? Then we have ohana. Ohana is like family. So in Hawaii, that can be your blood family, but it also extends out to like the larger community. You know, we live on an island. Yeah. So everything is, and everyone is interdependent on each other, you know, to keep the island going, to like allocate and mobilize resources, right? So this concept of ohana and family is extremely important. You know, you walk around in Hawaii and like everyone's auntie and uncle, you know, say, hey, what's up, auntie? What's up, uncle? Even if you don't know them, you know, like everyone's auntie and uncle, right? It's just sort of that thing. And that whole concept of like community is really important in the cannabis industry, as we see, right? You know, like we're always talking about community. Community is everything. Community is at the center of everything that we do. So again, these values, I see them, you know, it just appears in my daily work and my daily interactions with people. The last value that you brought up, laulima. Laulima literally means many hands or cooperation, right? So, you know, again, I think like, you know, the connection is like pretty obvious to like the cannabis industry. Like we all have to work together, right? Like all this work that we're doing, and I know Tahir, you know, especially, you know, on the NCI level, because you're working with so many different key stakeholders in different states across the country, like we have to cooperate, right? We have to laulima with each other. We have to all just come together. So, you know, these values and like my native Hawaiian culture is something extremely important. And I just, you know, I aloha cookies and backbone for allowing the space for me to be Hawaiian, you know, and for me to be able to share these values with other people and on a daily basis. And I think it's amazing. And, you know, it's definitely something I really appreciate about the cannabis industry is, you know, we're so open to other people's cultures and really bringing that into the industry, because we're all just brought together by this plant, right? So we can all be ourselves, you know, and that's what I appreciate. But yeah, it's something really important. And those values, aloha, ohana, and laulima, yeah, it guides me on my daily work for sure.
Absolutely, man. And speaking of Ohana and working together, you with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, man. Like, what's that been like? Working with the committee, and what's some things? I know you're on one of the subcommittees. What are some things that you're working on now with that?
Yeah. The NCIA Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee. Yeah, give thanks because it's been an amazing experience, and to hear, I have to say hats off to you for coordinating a lot of the efforts. So for Backbone and Cookies, we are NCIA members, right? And this has allowed me the opportunity to be on the DEIC, and I think diversity, equity, and inclusion is so important for the sustainability of the cannabis industry, right? As we see it grow to different states, see more markets coming online, um, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a key component to all this. I know even on the federal level, you and I were having conversations, right? So even when it was conversation around the MORE Act, right? They were talking to you and other key leaders because they understand the importance of having that in the legislation. So I see this opportunity as a way to really connect with other people who are doing all the same work around social equity and community engagement, but in their own states, and we're all in one place. So I think there's probably around 20 plus members of the DEIC. And when we meet, we talk about what's going on in new markets coming online, what proposed legislation and policy there is, and just what everyone else is working on. And again, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a key driver for the industry. So it's important that we can all get together and share knowledge, because again, then we can laulima, we can all cooperate, right? We can share knowledge and best practices and see what's good for the industry and bring that back to my respective organizations as well too, right? I can come to the committee and insight I wouldn't get, Michigan or Massachusetts, I can bring back to the Backbone team and to the Cookies team, and we can see how we can support these areas as well, or what other key stakeholders we want to engage with. And then I'm on the messaging subcommittee. So I work with, 3 amazing members of the DEIC, Kara Juster, Kelsey Middleton, Tiffany Watkins. And we're really looking at, what the messaging is of the DEIC to our key stakeholders, right? How are we engaging operators and companies, individuals, and showing them that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a key part of NCIA as an organization, and is a key part of the industry as it grows, and working on messaging, what that looks like, right? How are we reaching out to these companies and individuals? Working with you to see how we can connect to the social equity operators, and making sure that we have the right messaging that we're giving them. So it's a great opportunity, and especially for like the work we're doing with Cookies too. As we go to different communities, like we're not the experts in the community, right? Like the people who are the boots on the ground doing the work, the nonprofit organizations, the advocates, the individuals who are social equity operators, they're the ones we got to connect with. So NCIA is a good resource for us to really identify those key stakeholders, and it really helps us carry out our community engagement framework. So really important, and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee is doing amazing work. I'm excited to see how this work is going to progress for 2021. NCIA as an organization internally is getting more diverse, and that's really good because it's really starting to represent the industry. And yeah, it's just been an amazing experience so much. So yeah, so give thanks to the DEIC.
Yeah, man. And that scenery behind you is so beautiful.
Oh, we got
as the sun's starting to come up all the way, man. It's definitely dope to have you out there, in that environment. But question, man, you, like you said, and we're really lucky to have you on the on the committee, like you said, with such a long track record and experience doing all this in the industry. With you having such a long track record and having seen so much and done so much in the industry, what key piece of advice would you say that you would offer to other people of color that want to get involved in the cannabis industry?
Yeah, definitely. I think, from when I started in 2010, um, you know, like there was in Washington, they didn't think about social equity, right? That wasn't something that was being addressed. But like it's so important because this industry is really it should be the most inclusive industry, right? Everyone should be able to participate in the cannabis industry. I mean, it's a herb, it has healing power. But there's a lot of different usages for it, and I'm even going to tie in the hemp industry too, because hemp is going to come online more, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities. And for BIPOC people, I would say really start to connect with the organizations who are on the advocacy vibe, who are doing the work to really advocate for the policy in their community. I think that'd be a great place to start, so you can really start to see who's doing what opportunities there are. But then there are the organizations that are going to really have all the resources, or at least know how to navigate the processes. Applying for a license, starting for a business in the cannabis industry, this is the most heavily regulated industry. It takes a lot of resources. It's very cost intensive upfront, and it's not really entrepreneur friendly. So again, working together in these groups, this is where you'll find opportunities about shared use facilities, right? Where you learn about workforce development programs. And then I think being active too, like going to, well, I guess now times different, but I would say go to like the government meetings, go to the city council meetings, so you can see what's going on in your program. And then learn to offer cannabis related services. So things about workforce development, job placement, a lot of tradition, really, again, connecting with those advocates to see what's out there. And then you can start to see, where you fit in or what opportunities that you might want to explore. You can always reach out to us at Cookies too, and even Backbone. We're always available. I don't know if my contact information will be available, but reach out to me. I can definitely like help connect you to people, and at least get you like a good foundation of what opportunities might be available. Because I think a lot of people think, no, there's a lot of resources out there. A lot of people are doing the work, and everything is all relations. So many policies and legislation and regulations. Like it's heavily regulated, so you just understand how to navigate that. But then you can start to see your opportunities and what's going on.
Just so before I do let you go, make sure let people know how can they get in touch with you, and where can they go to find out more about Backbone. And I'm sure everybody knows how to find Cookies, but where can they find out more information about Cookies?
Yeah, definitely. So backboneiq.com. Again, we support all operators, large and small. We are the supply chain experts. So if you have any questions about supply chain management, what systems you need in place, that's where you can reach us. Cookies.co. Go on there and you can just get immersed in the culture, man. Like you said there, like Cookies is an amazing company, and you can go there, check out all the cool genetics we got, and then you can also see all the cool stuff we're doing with social impact. But that's where you can find them. And then for me, I guess you can look me up on LinkedIn. I don't know, maybe is there something that we can put my email on or something? But really,
I'll make sure that I'll include it in the notes with the show.
Yeah, really, anyone, email me. Like, it's a big thing. It's very important for me to be able to connect people to resources or other people, because this is what we do in the industry, right? We all support each other. Again, going back to the concept of like La Lima. Yeah, we all La Lima. We all cooperate, we're all in this together, and it's really the only way the industry can survive. We all have to be working together, and that's why I'm appreciative of you, my brother, what you do in your work. I'm appreciative of being on the DEIC. Again, big ups to Backbone and Cookies, and it's just been amazing, man. And I'm excited for 2021 and seeing what we can all do together.
Yeah, man, definitely. Likewise, bro. Definitely appreciate you. Hey, man, your whole fam. You know, Amanda, Bernard, man, he definitely was dope when he came out here to Maryland last year. The homie Matt from 1212, all of y'all, man, it's definitely good to, you know, tell everybody I said what's up, man.
Yeah, definitely. Big Burn, man. He's the one with the vision. It came from the community, man, and we're gonna keep it there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, be easy, bro. It's definitely appreciate you coming through early in the morning in Hawaii for us.
Check out the sunset, man, or
Hey, I
sunrise.
know. We're all jealous. Everybody's jealous. Talk to you soon, bro.
All right. Mahalo to here. Thank you. You guys.